Have you been tirelessly praying, steadfastly believing, and tenaciously holding on through what feels like a long, arduous season of waiting, all the while wondering if your much anticipated breakthrough will ever truly arrive? Do you sense deep down that you're on the brink of something significant, yet the answer or opportunity consistently remains just out of your reach? If this resonates with your current experience, then please understand that this message is a divine appointment specifically for you. Today, we're delivering what I believe is a prophetic word from the Lord. Your waiting has not been in vain. It has been a crucial period of preparation for a major, and indeed sudden, shift. Get ready, because the delay is ending, and God is about to move swiftly and decisively in your life. Don't miss this crucial announcement from heaven. Indeed, I have come before you today, not with an ordinary message, but with what I believe is a specific, prophetic word for someone listening right now, someone who has been faithfully enduring a long, and perhaps deeply wearying, season of waiting. You've been earnestly praying, steadfastly believing, and tenaciously holding on to God's promises. Yet it consistently feels like your much-needed breakthrough is perpetually just out of reach. You've cried out to God, asking, "When, Lord? How much longer must I endure this?" And I clearly hear the Spirit of the Lord saying to you today, your waiting is now officially over. Prepare yourself, for you are on the verge of a major, divinely orchestrated shift. This is not just another sermon or an encouraging talk. Consider this a divine announcement directly from the courts of heaven. The doors that have seemed impenetrably locked are about to swing wide open. The prayers that felt as though they went unheard and unanswered are on the precipice of being powerfully answered. Understand this crucial truth: the delay, the struggle, the wilderness journey, it was never a denial from God. It was always, and purposefully, a period of profound preparation. But now that season is decisively shifting. The appointed time of waiting has officially expired, and God is preparing to move suddenly, powerfully, and unmistakably in your life. I urgently need you to hear this deep within your spirit. What previously took years to happen is about to unfold in a matter of days. What seemed utterly impossible is on the verge of becoming your tangible reality. But here's the absolute key: you must be ready. Because when God shifts things, He often does it with remarkable speed. And if you're not in the correct spiritual position, if you're not alert and expectant, you might inadvertently miss what He's powerfully releasing into your life. So today, I am here to tell you with prophetic conviction: get ready for the breakthrough. Prepare for the unprecedented opportunity, anticipate the outpouring of favor, and position yourself for divine elevation, because what God has sovereignly declared over your life is now rapidly coming to pass. My friend, if you've been in an extended season of waiting, I want you to know with certainty that God has not forgotten you. The waiting season can often be one of the most painful, confusing, and deeply frustrating times in our walk with Him. It can make you question everything: your God-given purpose, the efficacy of your prayers, even the very foundations of your faith. You may have felt like you've been stuck in an endless, monotonous cycle where absolutely nothing seems to be changing for the better. You've been persistently asking, "Lord, when? How much longer? Why is this taking so incredibly long?" But I'm here to declare to you today that your waiting was not in vain. It had a divine purpose, and that purpose is about to be gloriously revealed. God is a God of perfect divine order and impeccable timing. He doesn't move too early, and He never, ever moves too late. He always moves right on time. But here's the inherent problem: when we are in the very middle of that waiting period, it rarely feels like perfect timing. It often feels like we've been overlooked, somehow passed by, and sadly left behind, while others around us seem to be effortlessly stepping into their promises. We witness others celebrating their breakthroughs, confidently walking through their open doors, and joyfully receiving the very blessings we've been earnestly praying for. And if we're not incredibly careful during these times, the enemy will subtly try to whisper insidious lies in our ears. Maybe God has forgotten about you. Maybe you missed your divine chance. Or maybe, just maybe, you weren't good enough to receive what you asked for. But the devil is, and always has been, a liar. God's delays are not His denials. He is not punishing you in the waiting. He is meticulously preparing you. Think about the life of Joseph. God gave him a powerful dream of leadership, of widespread influence, of divine purpose. But instead of stepping directly and immediately into that grand destiny, he was betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused of a crime he didn't commit, and unjustly thrown into prison. Year after agonizing year, Joseph waited. He waited through crushing disappointment. He waited through blatant injustice. He waited through deafening silence from God. But what Joseph likely didn't fully realize at the time was that every single moment of that prolonged waiting was actually building him, shaping him, and preparing him for the significant destiny that lay ahead. The betrayal built his resilience. The prison experience forged his character. The years of waiting deeply refined his faith, so that when the precise moment of breakthrough finally came, when the divine shift dramatically happened, he wasn't just haphazardly placed in a position of immense power. He was thoroughly ready for it. God is saying to you today, I wasn't punishing you during that time. I was carefully preparing you. I wasn't ignoring your cries. I was diligently equipping you for what was to come. I wasn't withholding good things from you. I was making absolutely sure that when the blessing finally arrives, you'll possess the necessary strength, the required wisdom, and the essential capacity to handle it effectively. You see, if Joseph had been promoted to his high position too soon, he wouldn't have possessed the emotional maturity or the spiritual depth to handle such immense responsibility. If David had been made king the very moment Samuel anointed him, he wouldn't yet have developed the shepherd's heart needed to lead a nation. If Esther had stepped into the palace before the divinely appointed time, she wouldn't have been perfectly positioned to save her people from annihilation. And I need you to hear me clearly today. What you have been patiently waiting for is not being denied to you. Instead, God is lovingly ensuring that when you finally step into it, you will not only receive it but also be able to stay in it, to sustain it, and to steward it well. Because a blessing given too soon can inadvertently become a burden. An opportunity received too early can easily be squandered or lost. A destiny stepped into prematurely can be overwhelming and ultimately destructive. So God, in His infinite wisdom and love, often says, not yet. Not because He's cruel, not because He's forgotten you, but because He loves you far too much to give you something before you are genuinely ready for it. Some of you have been waiting for physical healing, and you've wondered why God hasn't seemingly answered your prayers yet. But what if that period of waiting was intentionally building not just your faith, but also your powerful testimony for His glory? What if, through the process of waiting, God has been healing much more than just your physical body? What if He's been tenderly healing the hidden wounds in your heart? Some of you have been waiting for a meaningful relationship, wondering why God hasn't yet sent the right person into your life. But what if, in this very waiting season, He's been meticulously preparing you to be the right person, ready for the incredible blessing that's surely coming? Some of you have been waiting earnestly for a financial breakthrough, for significant doors of opportunity to open, for new avenues of provision to arise. But what if, in this period of waiting, God has been intentionally shaping your mindset, teaching you vital principles of stewardship, and profoundly deepening your trust in Him, so that when the breakthrough finally comes, you won't just passively receive it, you will wisely multiply it for His kingdom. I came here to tell you with deep conviction today that God never ever wastes a season. If you are currently in a period of waiting, please understand that it's for a significant, divine reason, and I don't know precisely how long you've been in this particular season, but I do know this. When God sovereignly declares that the waiting is over, when He definitively says, it's time for the shift, things move with sudden, undeniable velocity. Suddenly, Joseph went from the confinement of the prison to the prominence of the palace. Suddenly, David went from humbly tending sheep in the fields to powerfully ruling a nation. Suddenly, Esther went from being an orphan girl to becoming a courageous queen. And just as suddenly, God is about to move dramatically in your life. When God declares that a significant shift is coming, you absolutely had. Some of you need to consciously shake off the heavy discouragement of waiting, because the divine shift is already in motion. What you have been patiently waiting on is already being meticulously set in place by God's sovereign hand. The breakthrough you've longed for is much closer than you currently think. The opportunity you've prayed for is already knocking at your door. The answer you've sought is decidedly on its way. Your waiting is over. Get ready for what's coming. Next, when God declares that a significant shift is coming, you absolutely have to begin walking in keen expectation. You simply can't afford to be passive, hesitant, or plagued by doubt during such a pivotal time. You have to actively get into alignment with what God is doing, because when God moves, He often moves very quickly. I need somebody to hear me clearly today. What was previously delayed is now about to be powerfully released. The doors that seemed permanently shut and locked are on the verge of swinging wide open. The very thing you thought was utterly impossible, God is now saying, it's already done in the heavenly realm, and it's about to manifest in your earthly reality. But here's a common problem. Too many of us earnestly pray for a divine shift, but we don't adequately prepare ourselves for it. We cry out to God, fervently asking Him to change things, to open new doors, to bring fresh opportunities. But then, when He actually starts moving, we often hesitate. We begin to question, God, is this really for me? Am I truly ready for this? What if I fail? And tragically, some of us even inadvertently sabotage the very thing we prayed so long and hard for, simply because we fail to recognize the divine shift when it starts happening. But I want you to hear me with utmost seriousness today. You cannot afford to stay stuck in the limiting mindset of waiting when God has already begun shifting things powerfully in your favor. Look at the example of the Israelites. They cried out to God for freedom from Egyptian bondage for generations. And when God finally sent Moses to lead them out, when the Red Sea miraculously parted before them, when their long-awaited miracle finally came, do you know what some of them did? They started looking back with longing towards Egypt. They actually started reminiscing about the meager comforts of their slavery. They had been so conditioned to waiting and suffering that when the divine shift actually arrived, they weren't mentally or spiritually ready for it. They were still thinking like slaves when God was clearly calling them to become conquerors. And because they failed to fully embrace the shift, a journey that should have taken mere days tragically took them 40 long years. I don't know who this particular word is for, but please, don't let your internal hesitation delay your God-given destiny. God is emphatically saying, I'm shifting you into a brand new season. But you have to stop thinking like the person you were in the last one. You have to stop operating out of fear. You have to stop doubting every open door that appears before you. You have to stop questioning whether you're worthy, because I have already called you, I have already equipped you, and I have already gone ahead of you to prepare the way. Listen to me, this divine shift is not merely coming, it's already happening right now. Some of you are about to walk into divine connections that don't make logical sense. Some of you are on the verge of receiving opportunities that are significantly bigger than anything you've ever imagined. Some of you are about to see miraculous restoration in areas of your life that you had sadly already given up on. But the crucial question is, will you be ready when it happens? You simply cannot stay in Egypt, your past limitations, and simultaneously step into the promised land, your future blessings. You cannot walk in faith while still desperately holding on to fear. You cannot earnestly ask God to open doors, and then stubbornly refuse to walk through them when He does. This is your distinct moment of divine shift, but you absolutely have to choose to move with God. Think about Peter when Jesus called him out of the boat to walk on the water. The miracle was already set in motion. The water had already been made supernaturally stable under his feet, but Peter still had a crucial choice to make. He could courageously step into the miracle, or he could fearfully stay in the boat. And the very same thing is happening to some of you right now. God is lovingly saying, step out, move forward, walk in faith. But instead of stepping, instead of actively preparing for the imminent shift, you're overanalyzing it. Instead of running enthusiastically toward what God is calling you to, you're stuck in paralyzing hesitation. But can I tell you something important? This divine shift is going to happen, with or without your full cooperation. When God decides to move, He doesn't wait for us to feel perfectly comfortable. He doesn't wait until we feel completely ready. He moves because His divine plan is infinitely greater than our human fear. He moves because there are often other people attached to our obedience. He moves because when He speaks His word, it absolutely cannot return to Him void. And I don't know about you, but I steadfastly refuse to miss my God-ordained moment. I refuse to stay stuck in a season that God has already clearly moved me out of. I refuse to let fear hold me back when God has already undeniably made the way. I came to tell somebody with urgency today, it's time to move. It's time to start walking like it's already done. It's time to start talking like you already have the victory. It's time to start living like the shift has already fully happened. Because in the spirit realm, it most certainly has. And if you'll fully receive that truth today, if you'll consciously walk in bold expectation, if you'll diligently prepare for what's rapidly coming, then when the shift reaches its full manifestation, in the natural realm, you won't be caught off guard. You'll be perfectly positioned and ready to step fully into what God has been meticulously preparing for you all along. Because what God has for you is significantly bigger than what you left behind, and where He's taking you is profoundly greater than where you've been. So, don't look back, don't hesitate, don't delay, because your shift is here. Step into it with courage. When God declares a divine shift, He doesn't just bring about change, He brings about divine acceleration. What previously took years of effort will suddenly happen in mere moments. What seemed hopelessly stuck will unexpectedly and rapidly move forward. What felt utterly impossible will miraculously come together in ways you could never have orchestrated on your own. But here's what you absolutely need to understand. Divine acceleration requires diligent preparation. God is not just shifting things in your life. He's often doing it very quickly, and if you're not spiritually and mentally ready, you might inadvertently miss out on what he's powerfully releasing. This is unequivocally not the time to passively sit back and just wait for things to happen. This is the critical time to actively prepare yourself, your faith, your mindset, and your entire life for what God is imminently about to do. Some of you have been earnestly praying for an open door, but when it finally comes, will you be truly ready to confidently walk through it? Some of you have been patiently waiting for a promotion, but when God finally elevates you, will you possess the necessary character and the required wisdom to sustain that new level of responsibility? God is not just giving you a blessing, He's often entrusting you with greater responsibility. And responsibility always requires readiness. Think about Noah. God told him to build an ark long before there was even a single cloud in the sky. He had never personally seen rain. He had absolutely no natural proof that a cataclysmic flood was actually coming, but he prepared anyway. He diligently built when people around him mocked his efforts. He faithfully worked when there was absolutely no visible sign of impending change. And because he diligently prepared, when the rain finally came, he was ready. Some of you are, unfortunately, waiting to see tangible signs before you're willing to prepare. You're waiting for some form of external confirmation before you start building what God has told you to build. But true faith doesn't wait for proof. True faith prepares in anticipation of the promise. You don't wait to see the shift. You start moving as if it's already here. You start praying bigger, bolder prayers. You start speaking with newfound spiritual authority. You start intentionally cutting off distractions that hinder your progress. You start walking with a quiet confidence that says, I don't have to see it yet, I already know deep in my spirit that it's coming. God is saying to you, get your house in order. Get your mind in order. Get your spirit in order. Because when I move, it's going to happen suddenly. This is absolutely not the time to be casual or complacent about your divine calling. This is not the time to be distracted by things that ultimately don't matter in the grand scheme of His eternal purposes. If you truly knew how incredibly close you were to your breakthrough, you wouldn't waste another precious minute on doubt, on fear, or on second-guessing yourself. You would be in full preparation mode. When a woman is expecting a baby, she doesn't wait until she actually goes into labor to start preparing. She typically starts months in advance. She gets the nursery ready. She buys the necessary supplies. She prepares diligently because she knows with certainty that a due date is approaching. And I want to tell somebody with prophetic insight today, your divine due date is rapidly approaching. The things you've been earnestly carrying in prayer, the promises you've been steadfastly believing for, the unique purpose God has sovereignly placed within you, it's all about to be birthed into reality. And when it happens, it likely won't come gradually. It will often come quite suddenly. Joseph went from the despair of the prison to the prominence of the palace literally overnight. David transitioned from being a humble shepherd boy to becoming a mighty king in what seemed like a moment in time. The disciples were just ordinary fishermen one day, but when Jesus called them, their entire lives changed immediately and irrevocably. God is saying, I'm not just shifting you, I'm accelerating you. What took others 10 painstaking years to achieve will happen for you in perhaps one astonishing year. What seemed hopelessly delayed is going to come rushing into place with divine precision. The favor that was previously held up is now being powerfully released, and you won't have time to get ready then. You have to be ready now, because when the divine call comes, you won't have the luxury of time to go back and fix things. You won't have time to second-guess your decisions. You won't have time to prepare after the breakthrough happens. You absolutely have to prepare before it happens. Some of you have been saying, God, I'm just waiting on you. But perhaps, just perhaps, God has actually been waiting on you, waiting for you to stop playing small, waiting for you to start walking in holy boldness, waiting for you to stop making excuses and start courageously stepping into what He's already sovereignly set in motion. If you truly knew what was coming your way, you wouldn't be hesitant. You wouldn't be complacent. You wouldn't be distracted by things that ultimately don't matter. You would be intensely focused. You would be strategically in position. You would be moving like someone who knows with deep assurance that any day now, everything is about to dramatically change for the better. This is not the time to settle for less. This is not the time to slow down your spiritual momentum. This is the critical time to step into divine acceleration, the time to move as if the shift is already fully here, because in the spirit realm, it truly is. God is saying, Get ready. Get prepared, because what I'm about to do will happen much faster than you ever expected. And if you're not in the right position, you might just miss it. So, don't wait until you see it with your natural eyes. Prepare diligently now. Because when the doors finally swing open, when the breakthrough ultimately comes, when the divine acceleration fully starts, you won't have to scramble to catch up. You'll already be perfectly in place to joyfully receive it. And when you're truly ready, there won't be anything in heaven or on earth that can successfully stop what God is about to release powerfully in your life. When God brings a divine shift, it's not just about new doors opening, abundant blessings being released, or incredible breakthroughs happening. It's profoundly about you stepping into a completely new level of faith, spiritual authority, and divine purpose. This God-ordained shift is not just about what you're getting, it's significantly about who you're becoming in the process. Because when God shifts you, He is not just superficially changing your external situation, He is deeply and intrinsically changing you from the inside out. Some of you have been earnestly praying for change in your circumstances, but God is lovingly saying, I'm actually starting with you first. You've been asking for new opportunities, but God is patiently saying, I first need you to cultivate a new faith-filled mindset. You've been waiting for your external circumstances to magically shift, but God is wisely saying, I need you to shift internally first. Because what good is a brand new season if you still stubbornly possess an old, limiting mindset? What good is a wide open door if you're still carrying the heavy baggage of your past? What good is divine acceleration if you're still tenaciously holding on to paralyzing hesitation? God is not just shifting your life, He is simultaneously shifting your thinking, your faith, and your confidence in Him. He is lovingly calling you to rise up and courageously walk in the true identity He has sovereignly placed upon you. And for some of you, that inherently means intentionally letting go of things that no longer fit the new you or the new season. You simply cannot carry an old, defeated mindset into a vibrant, new season of victory. You cannot take old, destructive habits into a new, higher level of spiritual maturity. You cannot successfully step into a divine shift while still desperately clinging to things that only weigh you down and hinder your progress. Some of you have been tenaciously holding on to debilitating fear. God is gently saying, let it go. Some of you have been carrying deep-seated insecurity. God is lovingly saying, let it go. Some of you have been clinging tightly to unhealthy relationships, to outdated ways of thinking, to things that are merely comfortable but no longer serve your divine purpose. And God is urgently saying, it's time to release it all because I have so much more in store for you. When God called Abraham, He told him, leave your country, your people and your father's household and go to the land I will show you. Abraham didn't even know exactly where he was going. He just knew with certainty that if God said, go, he had to move. He understood that he couldn't stay where he was and simultaneously receive what God had for him in a new place. He had to trust God enough to courageously step into the complete unknown. And that's precisely where some of you find yourselves right now. You can feel the impending shift. You know deep in your spirit that God is moving, but stepping into it fully requires unwavering faith. Because sometimes the divine shift doesn't come with all the answers neatly packaged. Sometimes the shift requires you to walk forward boldly even before you see the full picture. Sometimes the shift means bravely leaving behind everything familiar and comfortable, and completely trusting that where God is taking you is infinitely better than where you've been. I need to ask you a critical question today. Do you trust God enough to genuinely move when He says move? Do you trust Him enough to willingly let go of what He's asking you to release? Do you trust Him enough to stop desperately trying to figure everything out on your own and simply walk in humble obedience to His leading? Because some of you are unfortunately holding on to things that no longer fit where God is clearly taking you. You are trying to keep people in your life who simply can't go where you're destined to go. You are attempting to make an old, expired season somehow stretch into a new, God-ordained one. But when God initiates a shift, you cannot afford to stay where you are. You absolutely have to move with Him. Think about the Israelites again. When God miraculously brought them out of slavery in Egypt, He didn't just physically free them, He also intended to internally change them. They were no longer meant to be slaves. They were now His chosen, treasured people. But because they largely failed to shift their ingrained mindset, because they still predominantly thought like slaves, even in freedom, an entire generation tragically missed out on entering the promised land. But I fervently pray that will not be your story. I don't want you to miss what God is powerfully doing in this season simply because you're too afraid to let go of what's merely familiar. I don't want you to miss your incredible blessing because you're still thinking like the person you were in your last, now concluded, season. I don't want you to delay your divine destiny because you're too hesitant to courageously step into the unknown. God is emphatically saying, this is your moment. This is your appointed time. I have sovereignly declared this shift over your life. I have already set things in motion that you can't even fully see or comprehend yet. But now, you have to move with me. Now, you have to willingly release the things that no longer serve your divine purpose. Now, you have to fully believe that I am indeed doing something far greater in your life than you can possibly imagine. Conclusion. So, we've received a powerful and prophetic word today. Your long season of waiting, which often felt like a denial, was in fact crucial and divine preparation. And now a sudden, God-orchestrated shift is upon you. He is accelerating His plans for your life, bringing forth long-awaited breakthroughs and presenting unprecedented opportunities. But this pivotal moment demands your absolute readiness, expectant heart, a renewed and transformed mindset, and a courageous willingness to let go of the old, comfortable patterns to fully embrace the new level of faith, authority, and purpose to which He is calling you. Don't allow hesitation, past disappointments, or an outdated way of thinking to hold you back from this incredible new beginning. Choose to move with God, courageously step into this accelerated season, and purposefully position yourself to receive all that He has meticulously prepared for you. Your time for this divine shift is unequivocally now. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel to watch our next videos.